I had everything I thought I was supposed to want and still felt disconnected from myself. I spent most of my life chasing a version of me that actually didn't even feel like who I am essentially. And that led to a lot of spiritual warfare. And we're going to get into it because it is now time for me to tell my truth the way I feel called to do it. It's your girl, Sister Soul, with two L's, the cosmic euphoric goddess, and those L's stands for lessons and love. And today, we're going to get all in my business. I want to share, well, I feel called to share my truth, my authenticity, how I got here, and my journey here, and returning home to myself. Because people need to know. Everybody always feel like you're only supposed to show the polished version of you, but for me, every part of me deserves love. The past versions, the version I am now, and the version that is waiting to greet me. I have broken this video up into chapters and I put some timestamps because guess what? It's a new month. We got a new vision. Well, no, a refined vision because the vision's still there, but more clarity and we're more grounded. So let's get right into it, babes. I will be looking down because I did make some notes, y'all, on my iPad because I can get off track. I like to yap, all right? To all my neurospicy queens, kings, they, thems, who's ever watching, you know what I mean. It's so easy to get, I'm very passionate too. So I look at me. Look at me. Let's just get into the video. I've always been creative, expressive, but I didn't always have the spaces to honor that to where I can fully be myself. It's like one minute I was able to be expressive and creative, and then the next minute I was getting in trouble for it, if we're being honest. I've always been a very passionate um woman. Well, from childhood, I've always been very passionate and very whimsy and always felt the need to be the one to brighten up a room or a space or make people feel seen. And that wasn't something that everyone understood. That wasn't something that everyone honored. A lot of people didn't understand that, especially growing up where I grew up. You know what I mean? I grew up in an environment where being nice and being kind wasn't as common. You know, people fuck with you, but it was a big difference. Okay. I was fortunate enough to go to magnet schools, both middle and high school, to where I was able to do chorus. Well, I did chorus. I did performing arts. I was in musical theater, thespians. I was in the dance department doing jazz, ballet, modern, all different types of beautiful things. I was also a majorette and I was deep into sports, y'all. I love sports. I love football. Anything that kept me active. I loved just being a part and immersing myself in the artist, you know, in artistry and recreational things. Because I did grow up at the Boys and Girls Club. If you know, you know, y'all. I used to be the four square queen. Okay. Four square queen. I had a buddy. We was partners. That was my girl. But anywho, um i I had the foundation. Like, I started out, from what I can remember, like I started out, I've always been me. Like, the woman that I've returned home to is literally just an elevated version of my inner child, which I am reparenting, because once you grow older you are in charge of reparenting your inner child. You cannot continue to live off those old stories of what happened to you growing up. It is your job to process those, find out how you will transmute them and alchemize them, and learn how to be the adult that your child, your inner child, well, you needed as a child. It is now time for you to be that parent to your inner child, okay? Now, as I said, my foundation, who I am at my core as a child, and how I grew up, I've always been so outgoing, and I just love people. I love everything. I love life. Like, that's always been me. And as I grew up, it kind of, you know, the smoke became thicker, the smoke and mirrors, and the vision became a little blurry because no one around me in my environment really chased their dreams, even to the people that I looked up to in the entertainment industry that was in my city. A lot of them stayed in my city. It's like they were No matter how good they were always confined to Tampa, specifically Tampa, and they never left. They always stayed there, and they settled for being city famous. And while everybody has their own path, that's something that didn't align with me. It didn't resonate with me. I felt like no one ever took a chance on themselves. I didn't watch anyone take a chance on themselves, at least. And it led me to believe that maybe my dreams aren't very realistic. Maybe me and the vision that I have won't truly come true. Like maybe I am too high in the clouds. So at a young age, being, having a single mom and being the eldest daughter, I started to shift my perspective in middle school to where I was literally straddling this line between staying in a child's place and actually having a dream and feeling like I had to grow up faster because my mom, essentially, I was tired of seeing my mom do and stress herself out over so many different things. Like that impacts kids too. Little do parents know, like that shit definitely affects you as a child. From how they speak to you, how they feel, their emotions. Like it's just a lot. And so at a young age, I would listen. I had really deep conversations with my grandparents on both sides, but it's specifically my mom's mom. We call her mother. She always talked about her brother, my great uncle Mark, and how he was a captain in the military, how he did so good. They came from a small town in South Carolina. My grandma worked in the fields and all these different things. So hearing his story and how he transitioned from the field to being a captain in the military, I'm like, wow, this is how I'm going to help. This is how I'm going to make a difference because I always wanted to make a difference. It's just as a kid, I thought I was going to be an activist and a creative. I thought that I was going to be able to use my art to change the world. I thought I was going to be able to contribute to liberating women and black people, like some Black Panther Party type shit. Like, no, like I'm being so real. And because I didn't really see that besides on TV and on shows and stuff like that, the military seemed closer. It seemed more realistic because I already knew somebody in the military. So that's why I chose the military. And I thought that was going to be my way of doing exactly what I needed to do. But somehow through, my high school years, my dream got farther away and I became someone who thought I had to live the American dream. I had to be a patriot. That was the only way to make change, even though that did not make sense to me because I knew what my ancestors had been through. I loved learning about my history, Black history, US history, and how things actually came about. And that was very conflicting for me. That was conflicting for me at a young age because I'm just like, damn, they did all of this to us. But the way I'm going to help is going to the military. It didn't make sense, but it was okay because I suppressed. I had learned how to suppress at a young age, and it just gradually got, worse. The luggages start to build up and stack up, the jars. It was a lot, you know what I mean? So I thought that the military was my way of helping, when in all reality, it wasn't genuinely a way of helping, but it was a catalyst for me to return home to myself because I went through my spiritual awakening active duty while in the Navy. And baby, when I tell you, the military is already not for the weak, but to go through a spiritual awakening while active duty, whew, I was built for this shit. The military taught me discipline, but it also showed me that it was more to life and that essentially America really don't give a fuck about us. And it's no shade, but I got to tell my truth, okay? The things that I seen in there, the things that I went through, the things that I did, it was just it showed me exactly why the feelings that I had of confusion as a kid, as a teenager, it validated those feelings. It validated that confusion because they showed me exactly why I deserve to chase my dreams. I already had discipline prior to the military, but the military discipline, the systems that they put on you, they're very rigid. You can't afford to remix shit and change what you want to change and do what you want to do and flow how you want to flow. It's not like that. Everything is by the book. Everything is uniform versus artistry and playing sports. How you come up, yes, you have your structure, you have your outline. However, you have to flow how you flow. You cannot perform artistry. It's something that you feel. When you tap into that flow state, that's different. But when you're out there in the middle of the sea and you got a fucking job to do, everything else go out the window. You got to focus. You got to lock in. You don't feel good? Oh well. Oh well. You do it sad, you do it mad, you do it sick. You don't get a break. And don't become somebody that actually is doing a hell of a job at their job. Oh baby, they barely want you to go home. Yeah, they barely want you to go home. When you work your ass off, they see that and they will drain you. Okay? They will drain you. That is my truth. Everybody experiences different, but that is my truth. And I'll go deeper into that. If you guys want to hear more stories, I definitely will. So let me know in the comments, okay? But let's move on. There was a point where when I realized I don't really know who I am outside of what I've been taught. It's like I said, it got further away from me. And this is where the spiritual awakening started to happen because I'm just like, there's no way that this is it in life. Like, I know my uncle did this and that was his journey, but this can't be my journey. Like, this can't be the only way that I help. This is not the only way that I give back to my people. This is not the only way that I can live out my dreams, okay? And I'm happy that I believe that, but what came with that was a lot. It was a lot of mental health problems. I was I did, I did attempt to take myself away from this world, and I'm happy I am still here, but that is something that happened. Like, that was my reality. At one point I didn't want to be here. At one point I felt like I was crazy for feeling the way I felt and watching everybody else walk around like this shit is normal when I knew something ain't right. Something ain't right. How I feel and what I was seeing, it just wasn't aligning. It wasn't resonating. So I started going backwards. Why do I feel this way? How did I get here? What was the shift? What was the changes? And I gradually was like, yeah, I can't do this. I went from saying, oh, I'm going to do 20 years in the military to saying, I got to get the fuck out of the military. And I needed to because it was making me sick. It was making me sick from the medicine, from the to the people, to the rigid systems that they had. I was never meant to be in that, but I did need it for my journey. You get what I'm saying? Everything aligned the way it was supposed to align for me. I don't regret anything I did. I honor every version of myself. Let me get that straight. But that doesn't override my experience either. I went through a lot. It was a lot of dark days. I felt so alone. Even when I was around people, I felt alone. And I knew that wasn't normal. I'm just like, why am I always around these people and I feel alone? I'm putting smiles on everybody's faces and I'm drowning inside. And one day I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I started asking for help and I couldn't even get the help. And you know what I know why? It's because I worked my ass off. I was working my ass off because I was no longer really creating. I was no longer tapping into my artistry. When I went out to the club, yeah, I danced. I still did hair. Yeah, that was another way. But it wasn't to the depth that my soul needed. And so my soul was uncomfortable and was like, baby girl, we can't do this anymore. We can't do this anymore. So one day I broke after asking for help for months. I just broke and I was like, yeah, no. And that is when everything started to shift for me. The moment I genuinely was able to take off my mask and say, fuck all of this, I'm not doing it anymore. The living on autopilot and not even trying, living on autopilot. I was a professional. I was a professional autopilot liver. I definitely was, but it was not healthy for me. I had to trade in my peace for a paycheck. That wasn't even enough. If you asked me, that wasn't worth, I was worth so much more. And I knew that, But how was I supposed to follow that feeling while I'm still under a contract? How was I supposed to live in my truth and tell my truth when I'm still under a contract? You know what I mean? I was in Cali, which is a dream spot. That was a dream place that I wanted to live. And I wanted to go up to, to LA to dance and all these different things, but I couldn't. I'm working all these hours at work. When I'm not working, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm literally tired. I want to sleep. I want to rest. I want to spend time out with my friends. I want to eat. It's like I had to choose between, am I going to create or I'm going to be free? But it never felt like both were accessible to me. And that's when I knew it's time to shift. And boom, I reached my turning point. I didn't wake up one day and have it all figured out and was just pitch perfect. I started it with small moments. I did what I could. I started choosing me in the ways that I could while still, you know, being under a contract. And what that looked like for me was simple things, writing and journaling again, starting back singing more and more, getting deeper into my fashion and my hair in different ways of feeling like myself again through artistry. I also called my power back when it came to my wellness. I was given so many different medications. I went to so many different therapies for, whether it was physical therapy or, mental health therapy, whatever. I cognitive behavior therapy. I said mental health therapy. Either way, y'all know what I mean, okay? But I tried everything. That's one thing I can't give myself. Whatever I could do while in, I tried. I went to them doctors. I asked questions. I wanted to be better. I didn't really want to, give up. Even though, I had my attempts. But that was when that felt like the only way out. You know what I mean? So after I was able to call my power back a little bit at a time, I started taking my wellness to another level. I stopped taking the medicine they gave me. I started diving deeper into herbalism and making different teas. I even smoked herbal joints while in the military. I would blend lavender, rose petals, and all types of different things to ground me and to help me in my journey. Um, and after a while, I actually stopped. When I stopped taking the medicine, and I was vocal with them and I told them I needed other options. They actually gave me other options, but they didn't offer them. They didn't offer them at first. The first thing they gave me was medicine. But when I told them no, but I needed to get better, they put me in a program to where it was a wounded warrior program. And I was able to do yoga. I was able to do gardening and work with dogs and all these different things. And I was able to get back into sign language and doing the things that I really love. And I did it when I could. I made time for it. Any space and time, I did what I could. And that is what changed my life forever because I didn't need 5 hours. I took the 5 minutes in my breaks to woosah, to do breath work, to meditate. I wanted it that bad to where I didn't leave room for excuses. But on those days where I wasn't motivated, I allowed myself to sit. I allowed myself to say, okay, I don't feel like doing this today. We don't feel like doing this today. I'm overwhelmed. My faith is getting weary. I was honest with myself, And I was still straddling the fence. Like, this is the thing I want to realize. Yes, I was taking these moments. Yes, I was changing in small ways. And it sometimes felt, because at this point in the military, I wasn't aware of how to put the mask on and take the mask off. See, what was happening, just like the movie, what was happening was when I put that mask on to go to work and to fulfill my job, because one thing I'm going to do is my best, okay? I love to go hard. I mean, I'm all or nothing. I'm an all or nothing type of person, okay? So whether or not I like the job or not, I'm still going to do my best because I take it seriously. I took my job seriously. I actually love my job, I ain't gonna lie. But I love everything, so duh. But anywho, I made moments happen for myself, essentially, is what I'm saying. I didn't make excuses. I figured out how to shift and what to do. And like I said, I didn't know how to put that mask on and take it off like other people did, because I was still learning that there was even a mask. This is essentially when I started to learn how to actually be myself. When I could, like, figuring out, okay, I don't gotta wear this mask if I don't want to, but it felt comfortable wearing the mask in order to survive the environments that I was in, which is why I said I was straddling that fence. You know what I mean? I was straddling that fence, but deep down, I was still doing that work. Behind those closed doors, I was still doing that work. And I learned so much about wellness and herbalism and spirituality, because I told y'all I went through a spiritual awakening, okay? It was tough, okay? I didn't know if I was coming or going. I didn't know if I was coming or going, okay? But I still showed up. I still showed up. I learned how to do different, with me doing yoga and stuff like that. I learned that that is something that my body enjoyed doing more than the workouts I was doing at that time, because essentially I was escaping in the gym and I wasn't focused on my wellness. I was just doing it because it was an outlet, and I was physically trying to look good while internally I didn't feel the best. But if I can dress it up and look nice, nobody will ask a question. So when I got deeper into my wellness and spirituality, and I started to bring myself out of that Christianity mindset, I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot. And it was heartbreaking to learn that a lot of stuff that I had learned and that I grew up loving and pouring my heart into, because I was a church girl. I love going to church. I love praise dancing. I love singing. I love reading the word. I loved God. My connection with God and Jesus was so important to me. And learning that a lot of the things that I learned wasn't true, wasn't a way to live, that was heartbreaking. I can genuinely say that. And I even spoke about that in my podcast. Like, religion was definitely my first heartbreak before my dad and all that extra stuff. Like, it was really learning that they taught me that God was outside of myself and God is in me. I am made in God's image. I am a goddess. Like, learning that was like, it was so mind-boggling to me, because it's just like, wow, this whole time I knew all those questions I was asking in church and getting in trouble for. I knew, like, I was angry. I wasn't even angry. I was more so sad. Like, I was so heartbroken, because I'm just like, how could y'all do this to us? How can y'all do this to us? And there's so many people in this world that follow these different religions that teach you, well, I don't want to say religions, because I don't know what the other religions teach, besides what I know. But for Christianity, you're taught that Jesus is going to come and save you. Jesus and Jesus and Jesus and this. And I love Jesus. However, the story that's told and how they break it down to me, it wasn't the truth, essentially. It wasn't what aligned with me, what resonated me. So I had to then go and reconstruct my beliefs. I had to then learn, okay, how am I actually supposed to pray? How am I actually supposed to talk to God? Now I'm learning, oh, my body is the temple. As it is on earth, as it is in heaven. Okay, let me shift my life. And from there, like I said, I was taking those small steps while I was in the military that eventually led me to grounding it, being more grounded when I transitioned out, which I needed, because when I got out of the military, baby, it was a lot. It was a lot. When I got out of the military, it was a lot going on. Got my car repossessed. I was essentially homeless. Like, if I'm being real, couch hopping, trying to find I'm hustling, working at different jobs. My last 1.5 to 2 years in the military, I was working 3 different jobs because they were messing up my checks. So while I was working All those hours in the military, I'm getting off, I'm working at Taco Bell, I'm doing hair, I'm Instacarting, I'm door dashing, and it still didn't feel like enough. I still felt behind, but I still showed up. And I couldn't let what was going on in my life in that moment be the end of me. So I kept going, I kept fighting, and I realized this is not my story forever. This is just my now, and I have to sit in this and I have to accept what's going on because my decisions led me to here, essentially. I'm not saying I deserve everything that's going on in my life or what happened, but I had to be real with myself. Like, this is not forever. This is just now. This is not forever. This is just now. And it was a lot. It was a lot. But look at me now. I'm here. Like, I'm literally talking to y'all. I'm literally living the life of my dreams. And I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade my journey for anything because I needed it. My life isn't about chasing anything anymore. It's about aligning and resonance. How does it make me feel in my body? Is this something that I feel like I have to do? Or is this something that I genuinely want to do? Is this something that my soul want to experience? I don't care to make shit look a certain way anymore. If it don't feel right in my body, it's a no. I now live a womb-led life, a spirit-led life. And I'm not saying with that my life is just also magical and I never have any challenges. No, but I've created systems. I've allowed myself to be able to, allow myself, that's a confirmation verb, thank you. I've allowed myself to express myself more, be comfortable in my emotions, be comfortable existing because this is my world too. And I've really became the parent my inner child needed, and I've been creating the life of my dreams. I've been allowing myself to be open to all that God has for me rather than feeling like I am only limited to certain things. And once you change your beliefs, once you shift your beliefs, because your beliefs shape your reality. The woman I was 18 when I joined the military. 18, I was still a child. But did I feel like a child? No. I didn't feel like a child. I grew up faster because that was just my reality. I grew up faster. I became the second parent, My mom did the best she could, but she still needed fucking help. She was still just a woman and she had an inner child and she had kids. You get what I'm saying? And being able to look at life as, a part of me rather than something that's outside of me and feeling like life was out to get me, that wasn't true. It's just the things that I was brought up to believe, the things that I seen was shaping my adulthood for, a little bit until I started asking questions, until I knew that I had a choice to make. And that is what changed my life. When I chose myself, when I chose to return home to myself, to my womb, when I really sat down and I was like, no, I really can. If I could do all that shit that I did in the military, if I could wake up every day and put on this mask, I can wake up and live a life mask free. Like, let's be real. When you think back to all the things that you've done and you've overcome and the places that you've been brought up out of, you really start to realize, like, damn, I really can work for myself. I really can live the life of my dreams. I really can do all these things. I really am successful. Because you don't become successful. You are already successful. You are already everything. You are already abundant. You literally just watch things come into play as you grow and you believe in yourself more and more, and you believe that things are meant to work out for you in the best way, and you really genuinely learn what you want. Think back to some shit that you thought you wanted and you ain't get, and then later on down the line you was like, damn, I'm happy I didn't get what I wanted. Because essentially we always get what we want. So sometimes we're redirected to a different path, and it's not to make you upset or it's not to make life harder, but it's to show you, baby, that's not what you want. That's what you were taught to want. You need to learn what you want in real life, because it's more to this world than the world they offered you. You get to create the world you want to live in. But you have to know that you have the choice to do it, which is why I know I could no longer hide in the shadows, which is why I knew it was meant for me to tell my story and meant for me to post, even when I felt like, no, that's too egotistical. That was beliefs that weren't even mine. If I know that the love that I have is genuine, if I know that my intentions are for us to all elevate, my intentions is to literally raise the vibration on earth. Why the hell, how is that egotistical? You get what I'm saying? And this is why it's so important for you to go back through those beliefs. And yes, I'm not saying that the journey is going to be all peaches and cream, but baby, it is so worth it. Because you deserve to live the life of your dreams and not the dreams that they told you had to have. I'm living proof of that shit. And that's why I'm not letting up. That's how I know that everything I dreamed of as a child, all the revising I did to my vision, I believe in myself, and nobody else is going to be able to stop me from believing in myself, because I believe in others just as much as I believe in me. And that's real. What can you do? How can you stop somebody that wants you to win too? How can you not root for somebody that's rooting for you? And those are questions that I don't got to answer, because I don't care. I'm going to keep showing up as I am, and I'm going to accept things for what they are, and I'm going to keep going. Letting go of what I was taught to want led me to making space for what I actually needed, what my soul truly desired, rather than what my mind wanted me to believe. And with that, I am forever grateful. And that's why I honor every version of myself. The 18-year-old version of me that made that sacrifice to join the military after high school, I honor her every day. She was just a child trying to figure out how the fuck I'm supposed to do this. She was a child with the weight of the world on her shoulders, wanting to help all her siblings, wanting to help her mom, wanting to be the one that take care of the family and change the dynamic of how Black families are perceived and taken care of. I knew that I had to be the change I wanted to see, even at the age I was, without really knowing how to do that. But I didn't give up. That is the whole point. I didn't give up, which is why I'm sitting here in front of y'all at 27 years old. Mind you, I didn't think I was going to make it past 21. I'm 27 years old. Finally doing the things that I always said I was going to do. Everything I'm doing is everything I said I would do. And I'm just getting started. From my artistry, to my wellness, to my outreach with the youth and women, and showing up for the Black community, because we need each other. I am not here to play around with anybody. I might joke, but I'm not playing. If you think I'm here to play around with y'all, goddamn I'm not. This is my life, and I am now in control. I'm co-creating with God to ground the life of my dreams, because as it is on earth is as it is in heaven. Okay? I'm taking care of my body like the temple it is, like the altar it is. I'm allowing myself to express and create when I feel led to. I'm allowing myself to actually connect with people and be as kind as I want to be, but also protecting my energy and upping my spiritual hygiene. I'm using all the tools that God put here for me rather than feeling like they're demonic. I'm allowing my birth chart to shine while also following the flow of Mother Gaia, while also living a womb-led life. I'm really here. I'm alive. I'm well. And like I said, I'm only getting started. So I will continue to live in my truth, no matter who it makes uncomfortable, because I know in my intentions, I want to liberate my people. And I'm going to do that. One video, one creation, one prayer, one breath at a time. I love y'all so much, and I appreciate you for listening. I appreciate you for joining my journey and watching me as I continue to become the woman of my dreams, as I already am the woman of my dreams. It is your girl, Sister Soul, with 2 L's. The L stands for Lessons in Love, the Cosmic Euphoric Goddess. And this is my dream life. I don't know. But yeah, y'all. Subscribe if you liked it. Leave a comment below. Let me know what resonated with y'all. I am not trying to be perfect and polished. Well, technically, I'm already perfect. You are too. We are all one of one. So we're genuinely already perfect.